3, 2, 1, end of test. Keying with a go.
Well, hello there, and welcome to another edition of Warbird Wednesday. My name is Fred Bell, the Vice Chairman of the Palm Springs Air Museum. Today I have an audience, actually, a production assistant. Very cool. He works for Jolly Ranchers. And I'm here with my Nemori Vegant assistant, Kevin, who is filming, and Greg, of course, does the edit. And the deal is I wear the hat. It's a flippin' bonnet. I know I'm going to start thinking about whether, I agreed to some of these. This is a bloody bonnet. So I'll go ahead and get the bonnet off here. I'm going to wrap it up, try to give it some mass, toss it to production assistant who makes a quick dive, and he gets it. Now today we are going across the sea, Kevin, across the sea to a place that you would not think about a lethal attack helicopter. But the Italians came up with, my heritage, came up with the Agusta, the A129. Now, this, of course, is not an Agusta, although I'm going to go ahead and throw it up. Greg can throw up a plan view of an A129. Now, we are taking a little bit of a jump. We talked about the Lockheed, and of course we're talking about Cobra, which are American designs, but the Europeans were not far behind. And we're going to talk about in our recognition segment today about the Europeans, because they really do not get the recognition that they should. You have to remember that the United States, at the end of the Cold War, we had this huge manufacturing apparatus set up for airplanes, and the European economies were primarily devastated. They did not have manufacturing. So it took quite a while for them to bounce back. And pre-war, we've done over 200 episodes. You can go and find all kinds of interesting airplanes that were built in either Europe or in Russia or around the world. And the thing that changed was the devastation to these economies, and it took them a while to catch up. This, the A129, is every bit, and you can argue with me, but every bit as lethal as an Apache or a later model Cobra. The first flight was in 1983. It was introduced in 1990. Now, here's the difference. Here is the difference. The difference is there were 60 deployed units built. So think about cost, that you're building 60 airplanes and spreading out that cost. They're going to be very expensive. And there were 7 prototypes built. Now, they have seen combat deployments in Somalia and Afghanistan and Iraq. They actually have seen combat in those areas. So this isn't that they were just deployed there. They have flown combat missions. Now, the aircraft itself came out of a 1972 Italian Army requirement. They all sat down, they had a little bit of pasta, and they had a little bit of hot, maybe some spicy meatballs, and they said, hey, we need a attack helicopter. It is a derivative of the A109, so maybe Greg can find that. But it is in design. Now remember, we talked about the Lockheed entry before the Cobra being too smart for its own good. It was way over-engineered. Nothing against Lockheed on this. We love you, Lockheed. We love everything about Lockheed. And we love the Dark Star, which is hanging out here right now. And we love the F-117. But the reality was, it was a heavily engineered aircraft. And the reason that the Cobra won out was it was less engineered and more practical, and that's just very top shelf. You can argue with me. The Italians basically took what we had done with the AH concept, the attack helicopter concept, and that they kind of picked up on it. Now the British, we're going to get into links. We're going to talk about some Russian attack helicopters in here that are flying. We've already talked about the big bruiser of the Russian inventory, but we're going to talk more about, because there's an alligator in Ukraine right now. That's all I'm going to say. So there are a number of modern derivatives of attack helicopter. The A-129 is the first European purpose-built attack helicopter, and we have to give it credit. And with that, I am going to take my leash here and do my my salute. Now, my salute today is with enjoy grapette soda. This is one of those things where it makes your tongue all grapey. Yeah, thanks, Kevin. I appreciate that. Vintage, thirsty or not, so it will literally like suck you in, I guess. But what I want to salute today is all of the European manufacturers that basically started from 1945. I mean, they started with zero. German Air Force was scrapped. French didn't have an Air Force. The Italians didn't have, everything was Lend-Lease. It was either borrowed from some re-engineered German types. The Russians had a robust air arm, a huge air arm, but the Europeans really didn't have anything. So but it took them until the 1970s to get to the point where they had enough technology that they could actually field a modern attack helicopter. And of course we have Airbus, we have many other things going on. You're probably screaming at the TV, Airbus, Airbus. We've got a lot of things going on, but the Europeans deserve credit. They deserve credit because they were the start of a hotbed of aviation in the beginning. We go all the way back to biplanes, early monoplanes, and they have continued to be, and they cannot be discounted as a source of modern aviation technology. And with that, grapette is the absolute perfect soda. And there was nothing there. Did you get that? Nothing. Oh boy. All right, here we go. Now, if I shake it, there's a little bit of movement there. It's not terrible. It's basically second sip for the Europeans. It's basically like detuned cough syrup. How's that? It's a runnier cough syrup. It's not as thick, but I'm not having any more of that. That was to the Europeans. Good on you, but I'm not taking any more for the team on that one. Now, the A-139 troop carrier never got off the ground, pardon the pun, and that was the Netherlands, Italy, Spain, and the UK. The Netherlands and the UK have dropped out of a lot of these, and that's a difference with the Europeans, by the way, consortiums. The expense for development on these aircraft is so great that they generally band together like Airbus or these consortiums. And in this case, they want to take another step forward. And the Netherlands and the UK actually pulled out and put their money on the Apache. So they went with the Apache. The weapons loadout on these attack helicopters is pretty basic now. They've loaded out the unguided rockets of various types. There'll be some sort of anti-tank weapon, in our case a TOW or an anti-tank inventory weapon, and then up front typically some sort of chain gun, heavy caliber chain gun. All of the attack helicopters are going with turrets that are what they call slave mounted. They're mounted to the helmets. Or they have a directional hooked to the yoke of a gunner in the front of the helicopter, but they're slaved into whatever the gunner is driving the sight on. I'm being very general here because there are a lot of different armaments that go into these aircraft. Greg can throw up the armament loadout on this particular aircraft, but they're all fairly the same in lethality from the chunks of weapons that they get loaded on. Now, the one thing about this, and we're going to do the Apache, so we're not going to let it out of the bag. The one thing I will say is the A129 has an air-to-air component and that it can mount Stinger missiles. So think about that for a second. So now not only do you have a ground attack helicopter, and let's say the helicopter moves along at a couple hundred miles an hour, but it has Stinger missiles on it. So it's dangerous to aircraft as well. So that is an added component. I will say, though, the reality in Ukraine is showing how lethal both man-pad, we've talked about man-pad, shoulder-fired weapons, and a lot of these sophisticated platform-mounted units are to aviation. And the Russian losses are just absolutely horrific. So what we are learning in Ukraine is, unlike what happened with the U.S. in Iraq and in where we've been deployed to a lot of brush fire wars, we have air superiority and we have incredibly lethal weapons. So remember when I talked about the principle of modern attack helicopters to get the enemy to put their head down? In those areas, they do that. But in Ukraine, where the enemy has relatively sophisticated anti-aircraft systems and is prepared to shoot back, and you're talking about rough parity, it's a completely different animal. And attack helicopters are extremely vulnerable, and that's not going to change. So it will be interesting as we move into new technology and away from aircraft like the A129, whether or not these platforms continue to stay manned. I would bet they're not going to be manned because they're just too vulnerable. The A129 was scheduled for upgrades in 2015 to be done by 2020, and I am not sure as of this video with COVID whether they got all that done, but they are upgrading the platform. But they are going to come up with a new platform, attack helicopter, an entirely new system that is going to be the AW249. So they are going to be segueing into a larger, heavier aircraft, probably with a company called Leonardo. There you go, another great Italian company. And the designation that I have is the AW249. Now, the interesting thing, they built 60 of these. As of right now, we only can confirm that there are 32 still flying. So the fleet is attriting. And, that's what happens with these airframes. You wear them out. So they're attriting down. Now, if you want to be the cool kid on the block, you need, look, that's cool kid right there. You can be cool kid on the block, and you need this hat. Jason will run down to the store happily after he's made it in his little workshop. He's not made it in his workshop, but he will run down to the store and mail you one of these. You can be the cool kid, either like that or like that. Who says we don't have high-tech action sequences here? So you can have it one way or another, but you need one of these caps. Now, if you came across us on YouTube and you like extremely low production military aircraft videos, we make no excuse for this. It's one take. We would love to have you as a subscriber. It helps the channel. If you know people that like this type of stuff, go ahead and forward it to them. Ask them to be a subscriber. We have well over 200 Warbird videos. We have educational features on the channel. We have in-flight videos. We have veteran first-person stories. There's a lot. There's 700 videos on the channel. So love for you to subscribe to our channel as we put up new content. We do have education guides for the kiddos. So in the links. Click on those, you get the education guides for free, and you can teach the kids about flight or about history. If you came across us on Facebook, same thing. Give us comments on any of the channels and any of the platforms. And the last thing is, we cannot do what we do here, either restore Muggsy or have this great early Hiller helicopter behind me. We cannot do that without shekels. So click on that link, give us a donation. We would greatly appreciate it. My name is Fred Bell. I am the Vice Chairman of the Palm Springs Air Museum. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
3, 2, 1, end of test. King with a go.